Hello, everybody. We are back. We are back again. Remember, last week we started this section or this segment whereby we are talking the consumer rights. Because as consumers, you don't know that we have rights. But the most important thing, you need to understand that we have rights. And remember, I said the power lies with knowledge. All right. Now let me introduce myself. My name is the Saubrey Boyz Walefatshe from the Big R, or you can call us TBR Solutions. I'm with Elias Shamatla. This is a consumer right activist. This man has done a lot. He has done debt counseling. He has worked for the bank. He has done he has done almost everything in this space. So he's got a vast knowledge of this industry. Mr. Shamatla, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for agreeing to join us again. Thank you.
Good evening, Dade, and thanks for the opportunity to be here to share what we have with your viewers.
All right. Now, last week we are already talking about debt counseling, because debt counseling, people misconstrue it. But you know what? At the same time, I don't blame them, because there are other debt counselors who are doing things that really they are not palatable, especially those who phone people. The next thing, clients cannot even trace them. There's nothing wrong in phoning people, because technology allows us to do that, to make things faster. But you know what? They don't respect clients. They end up doing things that are unacceptable. And remember, if clients still have that tag of debt review, they can't be able to do a credit anymore. And credit is the way to go. So now let's start there, Mr. Shamatla. Just tell me, starting from what we did last week, about those debt counselors who are giving these people a problem. If a member of community or a consumer feels that Mr. Chabalala is not servicing me right, is that member allowed to move from one debt counselor to the next?
Thank you for the question, Dade, which is very important. Yes, by all means, the consumer is allowed to change the debt counselor. They can go to a new debt counselor and request a transfer from the current debt counselor to the new one. So that's allowed.
All right. Now, a client can do that, can move from one debt counselor to the next. The next question is this: will the consumer, or is the consumer allowed to make his or her own payment without using the services of the PDA, without the involvement of the debt counselor? Is that possible? The consumer is under debt review, but he wants to continue to pay or service his creditors. How does it work there?
It is not allowed. Okay. When Dade Chawalala registered as a debt counselor, he signed the code of conduct with the National Credit Regulator to say all the consumers under debt review must, it's not a matter of choice, must pay via the payment distribution agency. Fortunately for me, when the decision was taken, I was in that meeting. What happened was that the credit providers were saying the consumer, okay, they were saying the debt counselor can do a perfect job. However, they cannot leave it up to the consumer to pay them. Why? The reason why this consumer is here under debt review is because he is in arrears already. He failed to pay by himself. So how do you expect him now to pay by himself after the debt counselor has made an arrangement? They say the consumers make promise to pay every day and they fail on those. Hence, they said, at least when you have got two budgets, one budget is for the household expenses controlled by the consumer. The debt counselor controls the second budget, which is the distributable amount. So this amount goes to the PDA, and the PDA is going to distribute this amount according to the proposal of the debt counselor. in that fashion, there's no way that the consumer can default.
Now,
so yes. Again,
yeah, you can say
the second part. The PDA or distribution agency, as policeman, he protects the consumer from the unscrupulous debt counselors. For example, if Dade Chabalala wants to overcharge the consumer, the PDA will say the fee that is allowed by the NCA is only so much. We cannot allow you to charge the consumer what you want to charge. So the consumer is protected when paying via the PDA. The reason why this is done again is because there was a debt counselor in Devon. There is a case law for that. He charged the consumer over 20,000 rand in terms of debt counseling fees. And then when he was sued and asked why did he do that, he said because there's too much admin in that review. So he's according to the amount of work that he's doing. But if there's no PA, there's no way that the regulator can know that some people are being overcharged.
Now,
I think I've covered.
Now, I want us to elaborate. I want us to make it easy. I always prefer that things should be simple. My hero, Steve Jobs, would say, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I agree with him. Now, you have talked about rehabilitation. We have talked about two budgets. All right. Let's explain that. Let's start about this two budget. What is two budget? Because I want a person out there to understand what is two budget that we're referring to. Thereafter, explain what is rehabilitation fee using examples.
All right. First of all, as things stand right now in today's date, there are people who are in arrears with their creditors. They don't know who to pay, who not to pay, because they are overwhelmed. So today, if you pay a credit card, tomorrow the vehicle is calling you, the home loan is calling you. You're confused. So now, when you enter that review, everything is structured. You as the consumer, you have to take care of yourself and your family first. So you must say, here is my proof of income, which is a payslip, salary advice, or whatever proof you may have. I earn 10,000 rand. Out of this 10,000 rand, I'm talking about net, what comes into your account. Out of 10,000 rand, I spend 6,000 rand on my household expenses. That is groceries, school fees, transport, insurance, everything that has got nothing to do with the debt. That is your responsibility as a consumer. That's your budget, 6,000 rand a month. The Dade Chabalala is left with 4,000 rand budget to share amongst the credit providers. It's up to Dade Chabalala now to use the system that he has to divide this 4,000 rand amongst the 6 credit providers that we have. That's when Dade Chabalala is going to propose that, okay, you, credit provider A, can I please propose that you reduce the interest rate from 27% to 10%? And credit provider B, and so on and so forth, until that 4,000 rand fits in. Right? That's the proposal from TVR to the credit providers. Credit providers
while you're still there, the big R will propose to the creditors that reduce your interest to this amount so that everybody can be catered for. All right.
Exactly.
Now, while you're still there, who's gonna make a final determination that this interest rate should be according to your proposal or according to me as the creditor, I want to get clarity on that.
Or creditor is going to make the final decision on that.
So in other words, the creditor has the final say at the
Yes,
end of it.
Yes, that the debt counselor will propose, and then the credit provider will have a final say.
Now, remember, debt review, we are being told that the matter should go to court for a court order. Will the court change that interest rate after the creditor has agreed, or after the creditor has come up with a counter? A creditor can also come up with a counter interest rate based on what the debt counselor has proposed. No, I can't hear you now. You have muted your mic. You have muted your mic. You have muted your mic. All right. Mr. Shamatla is still explaining. Yeah, come. Yeah, the question was, now the matter goes to court. Will the court decide finally that, oh, no, we change it. No, let's change the interest rate because will the court interfere with the interest rate? That's the question, basically.
No.
All right.
They leave it as is.
As it is. So in other words, the creditor is the one who's got the final say on it.
Yes.
All right. Now the other question, a follow-up question. In your experience of that review, have the creditors reduced the interest rate or not in the past?
Yeah. Yes, they do. Actually, there's one credit provider that I know which offers big personal loans. Even if you propose 10% from 25%, they'll go down to 0%.
0%?
Yes.
So that means that debt is for free?
Yes, because what they are worried about is that this person is over indebted already. If we insist to say we want profit on this person, we might get nothing. So we want this proposal of the debtor to solve, as long as we can get our money back. Because if this person is outside that review, there are chances that he's not going to pay us. So now, this credit provider appreciates the work that is done by the debt counselor to say, if it was a debt collector, I, as a credit provider, was supposed to pay the debt collector's commission. But now here is somebody who's bringing the money to me for free. This debt counselor is not employed by me; it's employed by the consumer. Let me meet the consumer halfway.
All right. Now, just there, you say a debt collector will be paid by the creditor. Now, a debt counselor will be paid by the consumer. Just explain, how much do they pay? Do they pay a huge amount? And how is it being paid? I owe creditors, but over and above, I still have to pay a debt counselor. If you can just explain how does it go? No, your mic is muted again. So I'm sure your finger is playing around next to the mic. Now I can see you. Yeah. How does it go about?
A debt counselor is a professional person who has studied debt counseling. This person has to be paid. He has to be paid his professional fee. He's not working for free. So now, when the over-indebted consumer who's about to lose his car, his house, goes to the debt counselor, and the debt counselor says, pay me up front, the consumer that doesn't have the money, right? And the debt counselor, remember, this consumer cannot be trusted, because the reason why he's here is because he hasn't paid car that is driving right now. He hasn't paid the house that he's living in right now. That would be expecting too much for the debt counselor to trust this particular consumer. So the debt counselor says, pay me first so that I can be able to do the job and assist you. So the credit providers met and said, now this debt counselor, who is helping us for free? Because We didn't employ this debt counselor. We don't know him, but he's helping us to get our money. How do we make sure that this debt counselor does his job without interference or disturbance of not being paid? Then the credit providers agreed. The first installment that is supposed to come to us, which is 4,000 rand on the example that we made.
Come to us. Who's us now?
As credit providers.
Credit providers. Okay, right.
All of us credit providers, let's drop in. The consumer has to pay us a certain amount altogether. So let's take this money and give it to a debt counselor as his fee, so that the debt counselor can get out of the way. So there's a maximum amount, maximum threshold that a debt counselor can charge for a single consumer, meaning somebody who is not married. Is 8,000 rand maximum, 8,000 rand. For a couple, is 9,000 rand maximum. You might have a consumer who stays in an estate who's paying 22,000 rand on the home loan only. You can't charge him 22,000 rand upfront fee. You will end up with 9,000 rand maximum threshold if it's a couple.
Why they're still okay. All right.
So the credit provider knows that the debt counselor has received his money. Then he's out of the way. The second month, the consumer has to pay the legal fees. Why? Because that review says after everything has been said and done, meaning that counselor has done his proposal, credit providers have accepted, or one or two haven't accepted, that counselor has to go to court to make this an order of court to protect who? The consumer. Because the consumers that are viewing this now, who have been in arrears, they will know that when they make an arrangement with credit providers, it's only temporary. After 3 months, the credit provider comes back and says, hey, let's review. We are increasing this now. Whereas in debt review, it's a permanent solution. So if you're going to pay X amount per month, it's permanent. So that's why the debt counselor has to take this to court for the court to make this an order of court, so that the credit provider cannot come back tomorrow and say, Shamatla, we see that you are gaining weight. We have to increase the installment and So they can't come back. Because now it's a court order. So the credit provider said, let's pay the debt counselor, number one. Number two, let's pay the attorney or the lawyer who's going to take this matter to court. Then we know from the third month, there are no fees that are being paid except the aftercare fees. Aftercare fees, it's a small amount. I think it's I think, if I'm not mistaken, 5%. The maximum amount is about 5%. Yes,
not exceeding 450.
Correct. So now, what does that mean? You are healthy. You are going to work. You are earning 20,000 rand a month. That counselor submits a proposal to all credit providers. They all accept. That counselor gets a court order. Everybody's happy. Boom, you get pregnant as a consumer. Now it is a new baby. The father runs away. The father of the baby runs away. So that 20,000 rand is no longer sufficient, because now you have to get a nanny for the baby.
I'll tell you one thing, Shamatla. We are discussing a very important part of this process, which are the fees. Fees are very important. Well, myself as a debt counselor, financial advisor, I know fees are very important. They need to be disclosed. And unfortunately, we are running out of time. But I want to say next week, Monday, I want us to start here on the fees, because I still want to ask a lot of questions. Now you said a single client is 8,000, a couple is 9,000. I still want to ask, maximum, yeah. I still want to ask and say, what is a rehab? What if my rehab is 4,000, is 2,000 rand and 3,000? When am I going to reach 8,000 or 9,000? So those are the issues that I want you to clarify. Let's simplify them. And then the other thing, you spoke about the court, because I want people to understand that debt review, it's more of a legal process to give you a legal protection more than reduction of the installment. Of course, there is a reduction of installment, there is a reduction of interest rate, but most importantly, it's a legal protection. You have mentioned something very, very powerful there, that making arrangements with creditors is temporary, because creditors, after 3 months, they'll come back and say, no, we increase it. But with debt review, because of a court order, it may last for 4 years or 7 years, depending how long it's gonna take, which is a much longer period. Let's leave it here, but this is where I want us to start when we meet again next week. And then those people who still want to ask more questions around the issue of debt review, very simple, drop us a WhatsApp. You'll see the WhatsApp number on our screen, or go to our website and then drop us a message there, and then ask those questions, and then I'll send to Mr. Shamatla well in advance so that he prepare. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate if you can bid the viewers farewell.
Thank you for having us in that day, Chabalala, and thanks for the viewers for checking out this video. We hope that it's going to be helpful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is the Saubrey Boyz Walefatshe from a TBR Solution. TBR Solution is a financial company that helps people to be financially savvy. I'm sure these days you are aware that prices are very up in terms of petrol, in terms of goods and services. Prices are very, very high. Now, these days, we are on a campaign to help those members of GPF or government employees, especially if you are 55 years old or above, and you are contemplating to resign or go on pension in 3 months' time. Give us a call or drop us a WhatsApp, then we'll call you back so that we help you to get your money expeditiously, as compared to sometimes people get their money after a long time. We will then transfer your money from GPF to Allen Gray, whom we have a relationship with. And the good news is, once the money has been transferred, you will choose how much you want to earn. If you happen to pass on, your spouse will also get the same amount. Then if it happens that both of you passes on, you would have appointed or selected beneficiaries. It could either be your children or anyone else. And there's nothing like age limit that they must be 22 or below. Even if they're above 22, they'll be able to get the inheritance from you. So that's how flexible it is. And then I know that sometimes people, they worry about medical aid and all that. We also have with other partners who assist you to get a medical aid. So if you want to learn more and get more information pertaining to that, just drop us a WhatsApp. We'll therefore come back to you. I thank you.